The school corridor felt a million miles long. For 14-year-old Lily, it was a gauntlet of whispers and cruel giggles. Every footstep echoed with the taunts that followed her like a shadow. They called her names. They pulled her hair. Today, it was worse. A sharp shove sent her books clattering across the polished floor. Tears pricked at her eyes, hot and stinging, as she scrambled to gather them. She just wanted to disappear, to become invisible. The ring of laughter was the worst part. Sharp and pointed, making her feel small and utterly alone in a sea of faces that blurred into a single sneering mask. She couldn't take it anymore. Clutching her books to her chest, she ran. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. She didn't know where she was going, just away from them. She skidded around a corner and nearly collided with a boy leaning against the lockers. He was older, maybe 16, with dark, serious eyes. He was Jake. Lily didn't know him well, but everyone knew who he was. He was quiet, kept to himself, and had a reputation that meant no one dared to cross him. He was her only chance. "Please," she whispered, her voice catching in her throat. The bullies rounded the corner, their laughter dying when they saw Jake. He didn't say a word. He just straightened up from the lockers, his expression unreadable but firm. His silence was more powerful than any shout could have been. The lead bully, a girl named Chloe, faltered. She looked from Jake's steady gaze to Lily, who was hiding behind him. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Chloe's face. Jake's history was whispered about in hushed tones. Stories of fights he'd been in before, fights he always finished. He simply raised an eyebrow, a silent question that dared them to continue. They exchanged nervous glances, and without another word, turned and walked away. The immediate threat was gone, but Lily was still shaking, the adrenaline leaving her weak and trembling. Hot tears streamed down her cheeks, a silent testament to her relief and humiliation. Jake turned to her, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. It was then he noticed the dark, ugly bruise forming on her arm where one of the girls had grabbed her. "They did that?" he asked, his jaw tightening. Lily could only nod, unable to speak. "Come on," he said softly, taking her elbow with a careful touch. "Let's get you to the school nurse. She'll sort that out." In the quiet of the nurse's office, with a cold pack pressed against her arm, Lily felt a deep, familiar shame wash over her. She knew she should say thank you, should explain what happened, but the words felt stuck. Her stutter always got worse when she was upset or nervous. She hated it. She hated how it made her feel stupid, how it gave the bullies another weapon to use against her. She stared at her scuffed shoes, wishing the floor would swallow her whole. The nurse bustled around, dabbing ointment on the bruise, but Lily was only aware of Jake, standing quietly by the door, waiting. "It's okay, you know," Jake said suddenly, breaking the silence. Lily looked up, surprised. "This stuttering," he clarified, imitating it gently, not to mock, but to show he understood. "It doesn't matter, not to me." His words were simple, but they landed in Lily's heart like a lifeline. No one had ever said that to her before. Most people just looked away, impatient, or worse, finished her sentences for her. Jake just looked at her, his eyes kind, and waited. For the first time, she felt like she didn't have to rush, that someone was actually willing to listen. From that day on, everything changed. Jake became her guardian angel. He would wait for her by her locker in the morning and walk with her between classes. The bullies still tried, their whispers still followed her, but they never dared to get close when Jake was there. His presence was a shield. He never made a big deal of it. Sometimes just a look from him was enough to make them scatter. Lily started to feel a little bit of the fear melt away, replaced by a tentative sense of safety she hadn't felt in years. She was still quiet, still shy, but she wasn't alone anymore. Slowly, Lily began to find her voice again, at least with Jake. He was the only friend she had, but he was more than enough. They would sit together at lunch, not always talking, but comfortable in the shared silence. He would listen patiently as she haltingly told him about her favorite books or a funny television show she'd watched. He never interrupted, he never rushed her, he just listened. And with him, Lily found that the words came a little easier. She started to feel less like a collection of broken pieces, and more like a person who had a friend. A year passed in a blur of shared lunches and quiet walks home. Lily was 15 now. The timid, frightened girl was still there, but she was buried deeper. With Jake by her side, she had found a sliver of confidence. The world didn't seem so scary anymore. He was her rock, her constant companion. She found herself watching him, the way his brow furrowed when he was concentrating, the rare small smile that would sometimes grace his lips. Her feelings of gratitude had slowly, quietly, blossomed into something more, something that made her heart beat a little faster whenever he was near. She was in love with him. One sunny afternoon, sitting on their usual bench in the park, Lily decided she had to tell him. Her hands were clammy and her stomach was a knot of nerves. The words felt huge and clumsy in her mouth. "Jake," she began, her voice barely a whisper. I like you more than a friend." The confession hung in the air between them. Jake looked surprised, his dark eyes wide. He didn't say anything for a long moment, and Lily's fragile confidence began to crumble. She thought she had made a terrible mistake, that she was about to lose the only friend she had in the world. Jake looked away across the green expanse of the park. "I don't know, Lily," he said finally, his voice hesitant. I'm not very good at this stuff." Lily's heart sank. But then he turned back to her and he saw the hope draining from her face, saw the familiar fear returning to her eyes. He thought about the past year, about how this quiet, shy girl had become such an important part of his life. He saw her not as a victim, but as someone strong and brave. He reached out and took her hand. "But I'm willing to try," he said, "with you." A brilliant, radiant smile broke across Lily's face. It was the first time Jake had ever seen her truly happy. From that moment on, she started to bloom. Being with Jake gave her a newfound strength. The whispers at school didn't sting as much because she had his hand to hold. The judgmental looks from strangers bounced off the invisible shield of their shared affection. She stopped caring what other people thought. All that mattered was that she had Jake, and for the first time in her life, Lily felt truly, completely happy with who she was. She was loved. Life has a way of surprising you. Just as Lily was settling into her newfound happiness, everything changed again. She was only 15, nearly 16, when she found out she was pregnant. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her joy. She was terrified. How could she be a mother? She was still a child herself. She was so scared to tell Jake, convinced that this would be the thing that finally made him leave. She cried for 2 days before she worked up the courage to tell him, the words tumbling out in a rush of tears and stutters. Jake listened, his face pale and serious. He held her while she cried, his arms a familiar, strong comfort around her. When she finally fell silent, exhausted and braced for the worst, he didn't run. He didn't yell. He simply looked her in the eyes and made a promise. "We'll be okay," he said, his voice firm and certain. "I'm not going anywhere, Lily. I'll stay with you. We'll do this together. I'll be a good dad, I promise." In that moment, Lily knew he meant it. His promise was an anchor in the storm of her fear. Their beautiful baby girl, Autumn, was born in the crisp golden light of October. Holding her tiny daughter for the first time, Lily felt a wave of love so fierce it took her breath away. But being a mother was harder than she could have ever imagined. The sleepless nights, the constant crying, the overwhelming responsibility. It was a heavy burden for a 16-year-old to bear. There were days she felt like she was drowning, overwhelmed by exhaustion and doubt. She felt like she was failing. But Jake kept his promise. Every single night when Autumn would wake up crying, he would be the one to get up. He would change her, feed her, and walk the floors with her until she drifted back to sleep, allowing Lily to get the rest she so desperately needed. He was a natural father, patient and gentle. They were a team. Slowly, through the haze of sleepless nights and endless nappy changes, they found their rhythm. They grew up fast, together, their little family of 3 becoming their whole world. The bullies and the whispers of the past faded into nothing, replaced by the sound of a baby's laughter and the quiet strength of a love that had weathered every storm.